The benefits of sobering thoughts. Today on Fortitude through Stoicism, and this is my 365-day journey of implementing the ancient philosophy of Stoicism into the life of this modern masculine man. It's really interesting today because it really parallels what is happening in our country right now post-election. The benefits of sobering thoughts. Today, the quote by Epictetus. Remember, Epictetus was exiled at one point. He was also put to death. Keep death and exile before your eyes each day, along with everything else that seems terrible. By doing so, you'll never have a base thought, nor will you have excessive desire. So what is Epictetus saying here? In essence, he's saying, well, if we keep in mind that we could die any minute, or that in his case, losing his status, if you keep that in mind, it's very humbling, he's saying. Why, right? Because at that time, think about the time of that Roman, that turn of the century, turn of the millennia. It's very, very, very chaotic time. Civil wars all throughout Rome. And, Greece was now under control of Rome. Today, though, Ryan Holiday says, political winds could change in an instant, depriving you of your most basic freedoms that you take for granted. Or, no matter who you are or how safely you've lived your life, there's always someone out there that would rob you and kill you just for a few dollars. I'm going to touch on this because this is incredibly true, right? Look at today's political climate. We'll take the DEI and the LGBTQ plus whatever community. Again, they're realizing that the political winds have shifted, that hard pendulum swing from the far left has now swung the other way. And that's what happens when you have imbalance, right? If you pull the pendulum so far to one side, once it lets go, it's going to swing back the other way. And that's what happened. We've gotten so far from our median with the insanity. And I'm going to say that because we got a little crazy, right? It got a little crazy when Budweiser is putting a transvestite person on one of their beer cans. We know the Bud Light crowd. Come on. So what you have is a repudiation. They don't want it. It's too much. And so you have that change in the political winds, and that's what we're seeing now. So if you've been living comfortably and there's been no pressure, if you're an illegal. Now, I remember when I was a kid, they had emigre all the time, man, deporting people. Like, that shit really happened. And then, these last 20 years, we got a little soft on that stuff. We were so focused on terrorism that we kind of ignored the border. And so what you've seen now in the U.S. is a complete shift in the political winds. Why? Because we were so far from, mainstream median, if you will. That's what we really want, just so you understand, right? The purpose of our government is to be impotent. Yes, I've said that. The purpose of our government is so that it doesn't have power. That was the exact balance of powers that were put in place by our founding fathers. Now, the federal government has found a way to consolidate power over the last, 2 centuries. But really what we want is just to be kind of left alone in our life. Yeah, little to the left, little to the right, cool. But once it gets way out there, that's when you're going to have the swing. So why is this important? I'm on FetLife. It's a lifestyle social media, and I see people panicking. Outright panicking, having complete emotional breakdowns. Now, number one, as a Stoic, we realize that this is fate. We have to control our emotions, because if we put all of our energy into this insanity, we can't actually focus on our lives and progress and controlling what we can control. So we're seeing this live happen right now, and I'm also seeing the breakdown in the emotions remember, life is so incredibly fragile. What we live in here in the United States, for most people who will see this, we're in an incredible bubble. I mean, I have been in some of the worst places in the world. Okay, so Guatemala City. Guatemala is considered, the armpit of Central America. It is the third world of the third world country. I've spent time there. I've seen that they eat the food off the ground and they hang it on the trees with raw meat with bugs on it and stuff. Like I've witnessed the way they live, and I thought that was interesting. And then I walked through a slum in the Philippines. They actually repurpose their garbage. They make a soup out of it and they eat the food that's in the trash. I'm not even kidding you. I forget the name of it, but they do that. Okay? We live such an entitled life, and we take for granted, number one, the security that we have. Because way back when, if somebody wanted your shit, they just come and take it, right? And that reality has been, it still exists in the world. It literally still exists in the world. In this country, yeah, I mean, the 1800s, we literally marched across this country and took land from people that it didn't belong to us. We just took their shit and said it's ours, right? Then we murdered them. Like, what the fuck? That's what we did. That's so you realize that, hey man, the tide can shift at any time. Politically, as a boy, the second most powerful country in the world no longer exists. It doesn't exist. It once was, now it is not. Just like the United States is now, there is a chance that in the future it will not exist. Bankruptcy normally is financial collapse, which is what happened to the Soviet Union and what happened to Rome. I mean, it's what happens. Financial collapse typically happens from within with these great empires. It's what happens. Now, the British Empire suffered a slow death, and we basically, took everything that was theirs, essentially, that was worth anything. And the debt crushed them from trying to fight us in the 7-Year Wars preceding. And why any of that matters now is because it paves the landscape for chaos, and it shows you that the world is never as safe as you really truly think it is. So when you recognize that, number one, it makes you incredibly mindful about, today I had a warm breakfast, I slept in a bed, no one tried to kill me, no one tried to rape me. It's a good day, right? Because those things happen around the world every single day. There are people that are fight for their lives every single day currently in the world. Africa, go to parts of Southeast Asia. Look at any of the countries that are on the do not travel list on the State Department. Those people are literally fighting for their lives. Human rights is a thing that doesn't really exist everywhere in the world. And my point to Stoicism is it didn't really exist until Stoicism. The thought of humanity and there being human benefit and having human rights did not really exist until this particular philosophy made it mainstream. And then it was really carried down to everyone through Christianity, really. Stoicism never really went below the aristocracy, the leadership class. I mean, yes, Epictetus was a slave, but he freed and became a educator. So really, his status grew throughout his life. So there's another quote here by the Epic of Gilgamesh, and I'm going to read this one because it's interesting. Man is snapped off like a reed in the cane brake. The comely young man, the pretty young woman, all too soon in their prime, death abducts them. Death is not the only unexpected interruption that we might face. Our plans all the time get dashed to pieces by a million reasons. Today might be more pleasant than the last day. It might not be, right? We can ignore the possibilities, but at what cost? So for me, I've talked about this. I've lived a very complete life. I am already living in overtime, in my opinion. So for me, every single day it's a gift. It's a blessing. It is something that I didn't expect, right? And that's the benefit of these sobering thoughts. Like, I have faced death so many times. And life is such a miracle. It's such a blessing. You hear me say the word amazing all the time because for me, it is. Every time I'll walk out to my car and I'll see the sun and I'll just sit there and go, I just pause and I'm incredibly blessed to see the sun and to feel the warmth. Now, there was a long time ago I didn't think about that. I didn't even pay attention to that. But that's the mindfulness that comes along with realizing just how precious life is. And if you've experienced death, most people have, a loved one, someone, but if you experienced a lot of it, you realize just how amazing life can truly be. And so with that, it should keep us incredibly humble and push the entitlement away. Because when you have these thoughts, you remain grounded, you remain grateful, you see opportunity. And that kind of healthy energy is contagious. And on that, time to go.